I know you use this video to fall asleep. So before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching now? Get comfortable and relax. The old house creaked under the weight of a storm that had rolled in without warning, its wooden bones groaning as rain lashed against the cracked windows. Elena stood in the center of the dimly lit living room, her damp hair clinging to her face, the faint glow of a single candle casting shadows that danced like specters on the walls. She had inherited this crumbling relic from her grandmother, a woman who had whispered cryptic warnings about the house's past before slipping into silence forever. Never stay after dark, her grandmother had rasped, her eyes wide with a fear Elena had dismissed as senility. Now, as the wind howled through the gaps in the frame, she felt a chill that wasn't from the weather. The first whisper came as she lit the second candle. A soft, sibilant sound, like a breath against her ear, saying her name. Elena. She spun around, heart thudding, but the room was empty. The furniture, dust-covered chairs and a sagging sofa, was still, the air thick with the musty scent of neglect. She chalked it up to exhaustion, the long drive from the city still heavy in her limbs. But then it came again, louder, insistent. Elena. This time, it seemed to rise from the floorboards beneath her feet. Her breath hitched as she dropped to her knees, pressing her ear to the wood. A low hum vibrated through the planks, and she swore she heard laughter, childlike, but warped, as if submerged in water. Panic clawed at her chest as she stumbled to her feet, grabbing the candle and heading for the stairs. The house had 3 floors, each more dilapidated than the last, and she'd planned to explore tomorrow. But the whispers grew into a chorus, echoing from every corner, urging her upward. Against her better judgment, she climbed, the stairs groaning under her weight. On the second floor, she found a hallway lined with portraits, faded images of stern-faced ancestors, their eyes following her. One painting, of a girl with hollow cheeks and a vacant stare, seemed to pulse with life. Elena's candle flickered as she passed, and the girl's lips moved. "Help us," it mouthed. Before the frame cracked down the center, she ran, her footsteps echoing, until she reached the attic door. It was ajar, a cold draft seeping out. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of mildew and something metallic, blood, perhaps. A single rocking chair sat in the center, swaying gently though no wind reached this high. On the floor lay a child's doll, its glass eyes glinting in the candlelight, its head twisted at an unnatural angle. The whispers coalesced into a single voice, deep and resonant. "You shouldn't have come." Elena froze, the candle slipping from her hand as the room plunged into darkness. A cold hand brushed her ankle, and she screamed, scrambling backward. The next morning, the storm had passed, and the house was silent. Elena emerged, pale and trembling, vowing never to return. But as she drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the attic window. The rocking chair moved, and the doll's head turned to watch her go. The whispers followed her down the road, faint but growing stronger, promising she'd be back. The highway stretched endlessly before Elena, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the dense forest that seemed to close in with every mile. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as the whispers lingered in her mind, a haunting echo that refused to fade. She glanced at the rearview mirror again, half expecting to see the doll's twisted face staring back, but there was only the empty road and the fading light of dusk. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat, the screen lighting up with a call from her brother, Mark. She hesitated, her thumb hovering over the answer button, then pressed it, desperate for a human voice to ground her. "Elena? Where are you? You sound like hell." Mark's voice crackled through the speaker, laced with concern. She forced a laugh, but it came out shaky. "Just got out of Grandma's house. It's weirder than I thought." She didn't mention the whispers or the cold hand, he'd think she'd lost it. Mark sighed. "I told you to sell that place." It's a money pit. Come stay with me tonight, clear your head. The offer was tempting, but as she opened her mouth to agree, the line crackled, and a child's giggle cut through Mark's voice. Elena's blood ran cold. Mark, did you hear that? Silence. Then, hear what? You're breaking up. Just get here safe. The call dropped, her car sputtered, the engine coughing as if protesting the night. She pulled over, heart pounding, and popped the hood. The forest loomed, its shadows deepening, and she swore she saw movement, small figures darting between the trees. A rustling came from the underbrush, and she froze as a doll, identical to the one in the attic, rolled onto the road. Its head turned slowly, glass eyes locking onto hers. The whispers surged, a cacophony of voices pleading and accusing. You left us. Come back. Elena stumbled back to the car, slamming the door as the engine roared to life unprompted. She floored the gas, tires screeching, but the doll was gone when she looked again. Hours later, she reached Mark's apartment, collapsing onto his couch. He handed her a glass of water, his brow furrowed. You look like you've seen a ghost. Spill it. She told him everything, the whispers, the portraits, the doll, her voice breaking as she relived the terror. Mark listened, skeptical but worried. Sounds like stress. But if it's that bad, we'll go back tomorrow, figure it out. Elena nodded, exhaustion pulling her under, but as she drifted to sleep, she heard it again, Elena, and jolted awake. The room was dark, but the air felt heavy. On the coffee table, the glass of water rippled, though no one had touched it. The next day, Mark drove them back, armed with a flashlight and a determination to prove it was nothing. The house stood silent, its windows like empty eyes. Inside, the attic door was wide open, the rocking chair still. But the doll was missing. As they searched, Mark found a trapdoor under a rug, its hinges rusted but intact. This might explain things, he said, prying it open. A ladder descended into darkness, and a musty odor wafted up. Elena's stomach churned, but she followed him down. The basement was a crypt, walls lined with child-sized skeletons, their tiny hands clutching faded toys. In the center, the doll sat, its head now facing them, mouth moving. You're home, it said, and the whispers exploded into a scream. The scream reverberated off the damp stone walls, a sound that clawed at Elena's sanity, forcing her to clap her hands over her ears. Mark stumbled backward, his flashlight beam trembling as it illuminated the skeletal remains, their hollow sockets seeming to track their every move. The doll's voice cut through the chaos, eerily calm now, repeating, "You're home," as if welcoming them to a nightmare. Elena's breath came in shallow gasps, her eyes darting to the trapdoor above, but it slammed shut with a thunderous bang, plunging them into near darkness save for the flickering light. "Mark, we need to get out," she shouted, her voice cracking as she lunged for the ladder. But the rungs felt slick, almost alive, wriggling under her grip. Mark grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Wait, look." He pointed the flashlight at the doll, which had begun to levitate, its glass eyes glowing a sickly yellow. The air grew colder, and the whispers morphed into distinct voices. Children's voices, each telling a fragment of a story. They locked us down here. We played. They never came back. The words painted a grim picture of abandonment, and Elena's stomach twisted as she realized these were the house's lost occupants. A shadow moved behind the doll, coalescing into a tall, gaunt figure, a woman in a tattered dress, her face obscured by matted hair. Her presence sucked the warmth from the room, and the skeletons began to rattle, as if stirred by her will. "You brought them back," the figure hissed, her voice a blend of rage and sorrow. Elena's knees buckled, but Mark stepped forward, his jaw set. "Who are you? What do you want?" The woman's head tilted, and her hair parted to reveal empty eye sockets. A mother's love, a child's freedom. Give us yours. The doll floated closer, its tiny hands reaching out. Elena's mind raced. The house wasn't just haunted, it was a prison, and they were now its captives. She grabbed Mark's arm, whispering, "We need to break whatever's holding them." He nodded, scanning the room until the flashlight caught a glint, an old iron key hanging from a hook on the wall. The woman shrieked as they moved toward it, the skeletons lunging with brittle fingers. Elena snatched the key, its surface icy against her skin, and spotted a rusted lock on the far wall. "There," she yelled, dodging a skeletal hand as Mark cleared a path. They reached the lock, and Elena jammed the key in, twisting with all her strength. The mechanism groaned, then clicked, and a wave of energy pulsed through the basement. The woman's figure dissolved into a wail, the skeletons collapsing into dust, and the doll crashed to the ground, its glow fading. Silence fell, heavy and final. The trapdoor creaked open, revealing the attic's dim light. They climbed out, trembling, and bolted for the front door, not stopping until they reached the car. As they drove away, the house loomed in the rearview mirror, its windows dark. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her back. That night, in Mark's apartment, she found the doll on her suitcase, its head turned toward her. The whispers returned, softer now, but clear, "You freed us, but we're not done." She dropped it, her scream waking Mark, and they knew the nightmare wasn't over. Mark lunged for the doll, his hands shaking as he scooped it up and hurled it into the kitchen sink, turning on the faucet as if water could wash away its malevolence. Elena stood frozen, her scream fading into a ragged breath, the whispers now a relentless murmur in her skull. "We're not done," the words looped, sinking deeper, and she pressed her palms against her temples, willing them to stop. Mark returned, his face pale but determined. "We're getting rid of this thing, tonight. No more chances." He grabbed a hammer from a toolbox under the counter, raising it to smash the doll, but it twitched, its glass eyes flaring red. The apartment lights flickered, plunging them into a strobe of shadow and light. The doll rolled out of the sink, its limbs jerking as if puppeted by invisible strings, and skittered across the floor toward Elena. She stumbled back, crashing into the couch, her heart hammering as the whispers grew into a chorus of childlike laughter. Mark swung the hammer, but it passed through the doll as if it were mist, the tool clanging against the hardwood. "It's not real," he shouted, frustration breaking his voice, but the doll's cold fingers brushed Elena's ankle, and she felt a pull, like something trying to drag her soul out. Desperation fueled her next move. She scrambled to her feet, grabbing her phone from the coffee table. The screen showed 8:44 p.m., late, but not too late to call for help. She dialed a number she hadn't used in years. Her old friend Sam, a historian with a penchant for the occult. The line rang twice before Sam's groggy voice answered. "Elena? It's past midnight. Wait, what's that noise?" She spilled the story in a frantic rush, the doll inching closer as she spoke. Sam's tone shifted to urgency. "Get out of there. That doll's a conduit. The house bound those spirits, and now it's binding you. Meet me at the library. I've got texts that might help." Mark grabbed her hand, and they bolted for the door, the doll's laughter following them into the hallway. Outside, the night air was thick with an unnatural fog, the streetlights casting eerie halos. They drove to the city library, arriving to find Sam waiting, a stack of ancient books under his arm. His eyes widened at their disheveled state. "You weren't kidding," he muttered, leading them inside. The library was deserted, the clock ticking past 9 p.m. Sam spread the books on a table, flipping to a page marked with a yellow bookmark. "This house, your grandmother's, was a sanatorium in the 1800s. They experimented on children, locked them in the basement. The ritual to bind their spirits required a key and a vessel, the doll. Elena's stomach churned. So the key we used, Sam nodded. It broke the binding, but the spirits latched onto you. We need to sever the connection. He handed her a ritual diagram, a circle with strange symbols, and a piece of chalk. Draw this around the doll. I'll recite the incantation. They returned to Mark's apartment, the doll now perched on the couch, watching. Elena chalked the circle, her hands trembling, as Sam chanted in a language she didn't recognize. The doll writhed, its voice rising in a wail, but the circle held. With a final word, it shattered into ash, the whispers silencing at last. Relief washed over her, but as they left, Elena felt a lingering chill. In the car, her phone buzzed, a photo of the attic window, sent from an unknown number, showing the rocking chair moving. The nightmare wasn't over. Elena stared at the photo on her phone, the rocking chair's slow sway etched into the grainy image, a silent taunt from an unknown sender. The timestamp read 8:43 p.m., just minutes ago, and her breath caught as she realized the implications. They hadn't escaped, the house was still reaching for her. Mark leaned over, his face paling as he saw the screen. How is this possible? We destroyed the doll. Sam, still clutching the ritual book, frowned. The vessel's gone, but the connection might be deeper, tied to you, Elena. We need to go back and end this for good. The drive back to the house was a tense silence, the fog thickening as they approached, the headlights barely piercing the gloom. It was 9:15 p.m. when they pulled up, the house looming like a predator waiting to pounce. The front door creaked open before they reached it, an invitation or a trap, Elena couldn't tell. Inside, the air was heavier, the whispers a faint hum that grew louder with each step toward the attic. The trapdoor was open again, the basement beckoning. Sam led the way, his flashlight cutting through the dark, revealing the dust-covered floor where the skeletons had crumbled. In the center, where the doll had been, lay a small, tarnished locket, its surface etched with the same symbols from the ritual. Elena picked it up, her fingers tingling as a flood of memories not her own surged through her. Images of children crying, a woman locking the basement door, and a ritual to trap their souls. This was hers, she whispered, recognizing the gaunt woman from the basement. The locket pulsed, and the whispers sharpened into a single voice, free us, or join us. The floor trembled, and shadowy figures began to rise, their forms more solid this time. Sam grabbed the chalk, sketching a larger circle around them, his voice steady as he recited the incantation. We need to use the locket. Break the original binding, he shouted over the rising wails. Elena clutched the locket, searching for a clasp, but it wouldn't open. Mark took a knife from his pocket, prying at it until the metal gave way. Inside was a lock of hair and a faded photograph of the woman, her mother, perhaps. The shadows lunged, but the circle held. Elena held the locket over the circle's center, and Sam chanted louder. Release them. With a final crack, the locket split apart, and a blinding light erupted, forcing them to shield their eyes. The shadows screamed, dissolving into the air, and the house shuddered, windows shattered. When the light faded, the basement was silent, the locket reduced to ash. They climbed out, exhausted, and stumbled outside as the house began to collapse behind them, its timbers groaning in defeat. Back at Mark's apartment, dawn broke, casting a pale light through the windows. Elena felt lighter, the whispers gone. But as she unpacked her bag, a single glass eye from the doll rolled out, staring up at her. She froze, the phone buzzing again, an unknown number, another photo. This time, it was her reflection in the car window, but her eyes were hollow, like the woman's. The nightmare wasn't over, it had just begun. Elena's breath hitched as she stared at the photo, her own hollow-eyed reflection a chilling mirror to the woman from the basement. The glass eye from the doll lay still on the floor, its gaze fixed on her, and the phone slipped from her trembling hands. Mark and Sam rushed over, their faces etched with alarm. "What now?" Mark demanded, his voice tight. Sam picked up the phone, studying the image. "This isn't over. The spirits marked you, Elena. That eye, it's a tether. We need to destroy it completely." The clock on the wall read 8:50 p.m., the night pressing on as they gathered in the kitchen. Sam rifled through his book, muttering about purification rituals, while Mark fetched a metal bowl and a lighter. Elena felt a coldness creeping up her spine, the whispers returning, faint, but insistent, like a thread pulling her back to the house. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Sam nodded, drawing a salt circle around the bowl. "We burn it with intent, break the link. Stand back." Mark dropped the glass eye into the bowl, its surface glinting ominously. Sam lit the lighter, the flame dancing as he chanted, his words a mix of Latin and something older. The eye sizzled as the flame touched it, emitting a high-pitched wail that made Elena's ears ring. The room darkened, the lights flickering, and shadows writhed on the walls, children's forms, reaching, pleading. The eye cracked, black smoke curling upward, and the whispers peeked into a scream before fading into silence. The light steadied, and the smoke dissipated, leaving only ash. Relief washed over them, but it was short-lived. Elena's reflection in the kitchen window showed her eyes still hollow, and a new whisper brushed her mind, "You're one of us now." She stumbled back, clutching her chest, as Mark and Sam exchanged horrified glances. Sam flipped through the book frantically. "If the tether's broken but the mark remains, it means the spirit transferred. You're carrying her essence." Elena's knees buckled, but she forced herself to stand. "Then we fight it. How do we get her out?" Sam pointed to a passage about exorcism, requiring a consecrated object and a location of peace. "We need a church, or somewhere holy. Now." They grabbed coats, the clock ticking to 9:05 p.m., and drove to a small chapel on the outskirts, its stained-glass windows glowing faintly. Inside, the air was still, a stark contrast to the house's chaos. A priest, roused by their frantic knocking, agreed to help, fetching a silver cross from the altar. Elena knelt, the cross pressed to her forehead, as Sam and the priest chanted. Pain seared through her, visions of the woman's life flashing, loss, madness, the ritual, then a release. When it ended, her eyes were normal again, the hollow stare gone. The priest nodded. "It's done." But as they left, Elena's phone buzzed, a final photo from the unknown number. The chapel's window, with her silhouette, but the rocking chair loomed behind her. The whispers were silent, but the threat remained. She knew the house would never let go completely. The chapel's heavy wooden doors creaked shut behind them as Elena, Mark, and Sam stepped into the cool night air, the clock on her phone now reading 9:20 p.m. The silhouette in the photo lingered in her mind, the rocking chair's presence a silent promise that the house's grip hadn't fully released. The streets were quiet, the fog thinning but still casting an eerie glow under the streetlights. Mark squeezed her shoulder. "We'll figure this out. It's weaker now." Sam nodded, clutching the ritual book, his expression grim. "But it's not gone. That photo means it's watching." They drove back to Mark's apartment, the silence in the car thick with unspoken fears. Inside, Elena headed straight for the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face, hoping to wash away the lingering chill. In the mirror, her reflection seemed normal, but a faint shadow flickered behind her, a child's outline, gone in an instant. Her heart lurched, and she called out, "Sam! Mark!" They rushed in, weapons drawn. Mark with a kitchen knife, Sam with a vial of holy water from the chapel. The room was empty, but the air felt charged. Sam opened the book to a section on lingering spirits. If it's watching, it's using a new anchor. Could be an object you brought back, or something it planted. Elena's mind raced to her bag, still unpacked from the initial escape. She dumped its contents onto the floor, and a small, rusted nail tumbled out, its tip stained dark. "This wasn't mine," she said, her voice trembling. Sam's eyes narrowed. "A relic from the house. It's the new tether." He drew another salt circle, placing the nail in the center, and began chanting. The holy water sprinkled over it, the nail glowed faintly, emitting a low hum, and the apartment shook. Shadows coalesced, children and the gaunt woman, circling the circle, their forms more desperate than hostile. "Let us stay," the woman's voice pleaded, her empty sockets fixed on Elena. "You're free," Elena countered, her resolve hardening. "Go in peace." Sam raised the cross, amplifying the chant, and the nail shattered, the glow exploding into light. The shadows wailed, dissipating into the air, and the shaking stopped. The room fell silent, the threat seemingly lifted, but as they caught their breath, Elena's phone buzzed again. Another photo, this time, the nails ash forming her name on the floor. The whispers returned, a single word, "Ours." Her blood ran cold. Mark grabbed her hand. "We're not safe here. We need to leave, now." Sam agreed, packing the book and cross. They fled the apartment, driving aimlessly into the night, the clock ticking to 9:45 p.m. In the rearview mirror, the city skyline faded, but Elena felt the house's presence growing, a pull she couldn't escape. The nightmare had evolved, and she was its new heart. The car's engine hummed as they sped down the darkened highway, the clock on the dashboard glowing 9:50 p.m., the date reading August 17, 2025. Elena gripped the door handle, the pull from the house intensifying with every mile, a sensation like invisible threads tugging at her soul. Mark's jaw was set, his eyes fixed on the road, while Sam pored over the ritual book in the back seat, muttering under his breath. "It's not just the house," Sam said, his voice tight. "The spirits latched onto you, Elena. The nail was a decoy, it's using your energy now." Elena's stomach dropped. "So what do we do? I can't keep running." Sam flipped to a page marked with a red ribbon, his finger tracing the text. "There's a binding reversal, requires a place of origin and a sacrifice of intent. We need to return to the house's foundation, confront the source, and sever the link with something you valued." She nodded, though dread coiled in her chest. "My locket, my mom's. It's the only thing I have left of her." Mark glanced at her, concern flashing in his eyes. "Are you sure?" She swallowed hard. "It's the only way." They turned back, the house reappearing through the fog like a specter, its collapsed remains a skeletal frame under the moonless sky. It was 10:15 p.m. when they parked, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. The basement trapdoor, miraculously intact, gaped open, a black maw inviting them in. Elena led the way, clutching her mother's locket, its gold surface warm against her palm. The foundation stones were cracked, but in the center lay a carved symbol, the same as on the locket and nail. "This is it," Sam whispered, drawing a circle around it with chalk. Elena knelt, placing the locket on the symbol, her hands shaking as she recited the words Sam fed her from the book. "I release you with my intent, severing the bond." The locket glowed, and the ground trembled. The woman's spirit materialized, her form less gaunt, her eyes filled with a sorrowful light. "Thank you," she murmured, the children's shadows joining her. The locket melted into the stone, and a wave of energy pulsed, shattering the symbol. The spirits faded, their voices a soft goodbye. Relief flooded Elena, but as they climbed out, her phone buzzed. A final photo, the house's ruins, with her silhouette standing alone. The whispers were gone, but a new weight settled in her chest. Back in the car, Mark hugged her. "It's over." Sam nodded, but his eyes lingered on the horizon. At 10:45 p.m., they drove away, the house a memory. Yet, in the silence, Elena felt a faint echo, not of whispers, but of belonging, as if part of her remained with the freed souls. The car rolled to a stop at a roadside diner just off the highway, the clock on Elena's phone blinking 11 p.m. as they crossed into a new day, August 18, 2025. The neon sign buzzed faintly, casting a red glow over the gravel lot, a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness they'd left behind. Elena's body ached with exhaustion, but the faint echo of belonging lingered, a quiet hum in her mind that she couldn't shake. Mark parked, turning to her with a weary smile. "Food and rest, then we figure out the next step." Sam nodded, clutching the ritual book, his face etched with relief but also uncertainty. Inside, the diner was nearly empty, the hum of a jukebox playing a soft country tune filling the air. They slid into a booth, the vinyl creaking under them, and ordered coffee. Elena stared out the window, the house's ruins a fading silhouette in her memory, but the photo on her phone, the one with her solitary figure, burned in her thoughts. She pulled it up again, zooming in. Her silhouette seemed to shift, as if moving independently, and a chill ran through her. "Sam, look at this," she said, sliding the phone across the table. Sam's brow furrowed as he studied the image. The spirit's gone, but the mark might have left a trace, a psychic imprint. "You're not possessed, but you're connected." Mark leaned in, his voice low. "Connected how?" "She's free, right?" Sam hesitated. "Physically, yes. But spiritually, she might carry their memory, their essence. It could fade, or it could grow." Elena's coffee arrived, but she barely noticed, her mind racing. The echo in her head pulsed, and for a moment, she saw a flash, a child's laugh, a mother's embrace, then it was gone. They ate in silence, the weight of the night settling over them. At 11:30 p.m., a waitress approached, her eyes lingering on Elena a beat too long. "You look familiar," she said, then shook her head. "Never mind." But as she walked away, Elena felt a tug, the echo strengthening. She excused herself, stepping outside for air. The parking lot was quiet, but the stars seemed to pulse, and she heard it again, a whisper, not menacing, but curious. "Are you home?" Her hand went to her chest, where the locket had been, now a void. "Back inside," she told Sam and Mark. "It's not over. They're still with me, peacefully, I think." Sam opened the book to a section on spiritual legacies. "If it's benign, it might be a gift, their gratitude. But if it changes, we'll need to act." Mark squeezed her hand. "We'll watch it together." At midnight, they left the diner, driving toward a new town, the echo a soft companion. Elena glanced back, the house a distant memory, but the connection remained, a thread tying her to the freed souls, a burden, or perhaps a calling. The car's headlights cut through the thickening night as they drove toward the small town of Ashwood, the clock on the dashboard reading 8:55 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025. The echo in Elena's mind had grown into a gentle murmur, a chorus of soft voices that felt more like a lullaby than a threat. Mark kept his eyes on the road, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly, while Sam scribbled notes in the margins of the ritual book, muttering about spiritual imprints. The diner's neon glow faded behind them, replaced by the dark silhouette of pine trees lining the highway. Elena leaned back, closing her eyes, and the murmur sharpened into a single voice, a girl's, hesitant but warm. "Thank you, stay with us." She opened her eyes, her breath catching as she saw a faint shimmer in the passenger window, a child's face, smiling, then vanishing. "Did you see that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mark glanced over, frowning. "See what?" Sam looked up, his pen pausing. "A manifestation? Describe it." Elena recounted the girl's face, and Sam nodded slowly. "It's not possession, it's communion. They're reaching out, not controlling." At 9:10 p.m., they reached Ashwood, a quiet town with a single main street and a quaint inn. They checked in, the clerk giving them a curious look but saying nothing. In their room, Elena sat on the bed, the murmur now a constant presence, bringing flashes of memory. Children playing in a sunlit yard, a mother's song, moments stolen from the house's tragic past. "It's like they're sharing their lives with me," she said, her voice soft. Mark sat beside her, his hand on hers. "If it's peaceful, maybe it's okay. But we'll monitor it." Sam set the book on the table. "We'll research tomorrow. For now, rest." As they settled, the clock ticked to 9:30 p.m. Elena lay down, the murmur lulling her toward sleep, but a new image surfaced, a map, etched in her mind, leading back to the house's ruins. She sat up, heart pounding. "I saw something, a path. They want me to go back." Sam grabbed the book, flipping to a section on spiritual guidance. It could be a final request, to honor them, or to close the circle. Mark sighed. "After tonight?" But Elena nodded. "I feel I have to." At 10 p.m., they agreed to return at dawn. As Elena drifted off, the murmur whispered, "Find us," and she saw the girl again, holding out a flower. The connection deepened, a bond she couldn't sever, and she wondered if this was her new purpose, to carry their legacy forward. The first light of dawn crept through the inn's thin curtains, the clock on Elena's phone reading 8:50 a.m. on Monday, August 18, 2025. The murmur in her mind had softened overnight, a gentle hum that carried the girl's voice, now joined by others, urging her forward. Mark and Sam stirred, the exhaustion of the previous night etched into their faces. Elena sat up, the map-like vision from her dream clearer now, a winding path from Ashwood back to the house's ruins, marked by a glowing point where the foundation lay. "It's time," she said, her voice steady despite the unease in her chest. They packed quickly, the inn's quiet morning air a stark contrast to the chaos they'd faced. The drive back was silent, the clock ticking to 9:15 a.m. as they neared the site. The house's remains were a heap of splintered wood and stone, the basement trapdoor still visible amid the rubble. The air felt different, lighter, but charged with anticipation. Elena led the way, the murmur guiding her steps as she descended into the basement. The symbol on the foundation stone was gone, replaced by a small, carved indentation, as if waiting that I in her mind, the girl's voice whispered, "Place it here." Elena reached into her pocket, pulling out a single flower, wild and white, the same one from her vision, though she couldn't recall picking it. She set it into the indentation, and the stone glowed softly. The murmur swelled into a chorus of gratitude, and the air shimmered. Shadows of children appeared, not menacing but joyful, dancing around the flower. The gaunt woman materialized last, her form whole now, her eyes filled with peace. "You've given us rest," she said, her voice echoing. "This is yours." She extended a hand, and a faint light flowed into Elena, warm and grounding. The vision stopped, the murmur fading to a distant echo, like a memory preserved. The children and woman dissolved, the flower wilting into the stone as the glow dimmed. Sam documented it in his book, muttering, "A closure ritual, voluntary release." Mark helped Elena up, his relief palpable. "You okay?" She nodded, feeling lighter, the hollow echo replaced by a sense of closure. At 9:45 a.m., they climbed out, the ruins settling into silence. As they drove away, Elena glanced back. The site was still, but she felt the bond, not a burden, but a legacy. Her phone buzzed, a final photo, the flower etched into the stone, her silhouette beside it, whole. The nightmare had ended, and a new chapter begun. The car rolled to a stop at the edge of Ashwood as the clock on Elena's phone shifted to 9 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the date aligning with the moment the house's influence had begun to wane. The sky was a deep indigo, stars piercing through the thinning fog, and the murmur in Elena's mind had settled into a quiet resonance, a gentle reminder of the spirit's gratitude rather than a haunting call. Mark turned off the engine, the silence outside the car a stark contrast to the chaos they'd endured. Sam closed the ritual book, his note scribbled in the margins a testament to their ordeal. "We did it," he said, his voice soft but firm. Elena stepped out, the cool night air brushing against her skin, and gazed back toward the direction of the house's ruins, now miles behind them. The flower etched into the foundation stone lingered in her mind, a symbol of closure she felt in her bones. The legacy the spirits had left her, a warmth, a purpose, felt like a mantle she was meant to carry. "I think they wanted me to remember them, not just free them," she said, her voice steady. Mark joined her, his hand finding hers. "Then we'll honor that. Together." Sam nodded, tucking the book under his arm. "Maybe there's more to this, others like them." At 9:15 p.m., they checked back into the inn, the clerk raising an eyebrow but offering no questions. In their room, Elena sat by the window, the murmur now a faint echo, like a lullaby from a distant memory. She pulled out her phone, the final photo still saved, the flower and her silhouette, a keepsake of her transformation. The resonance pulsed, and she saw a fleeting image, a journal, old and leather-bound, hidden somewhere in Ashwood. "There's something else," she murmured, sharing the vision with Mark and Sam. Sam's eyes lit up. "A record, maybe. We'll look tomorrow." They agreed to rest, the clock ticking to 9:30 p.m. As Elena lay down, the echo whispered, "Find our story," and she drifted into a dreamless sleep, the weight of the night lifting. At 8:51 p.m. the next evening, Monday, August 18, 2025, she woke refreshed, the resonance a quiet guide. With Mark and Sam, she began the search in Ashwood's library, the journal's location tugging at her intuition. The nightmare had ended, but a new journey, of understanding and remembrance, had just begun. The library's dim lights flickered as Elena, Mark, and Sam stepped inside at 9 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the clock on the wall ticking in sync with the quiet hum of the resonance in her mind. The air smelled of old paper and dust, shelves towering with volumes that seemed to whisper secrets of their own. Elena closed her eyes, letting the faint echo guide her, a pull toward the back, where a secluded corner held a locked glass case. The journal from her vision flashed in her mind again, its leather cover worn, its pages yellowed with time. Sam approached the case, peering at the lone book inside. "This looks promising," he said, tapping the glass. The title was faded, but the symbol etched on the cover matched the one from the foundation stone, a circle with intertwining lines. Mark fetched the librarian, a wiry man with thick glasses, who unlocked the case with a skeptical grunt. "Rare find. Donated years ago, no one's touched it." Elena's fingers trembled as she lifted the journal, the resonance pulsing stronger, the spirits' voices murmuring, "Our truth." At 9:15 p.m., they settled at a table, the journal's pages creaking as Elena opened it. The handwriting was cramped, the ink smudged, but the story unfolded, accounts of the sanatorium, the experiments, the mother's descent into madness, and the ritual to bind the children's souls. Tears welled in Elena's eyes as she read the final entry, a plea for forgiveness, signed by the woman whose spirit she'd freed. The resonance shifted, a wave of peace washing over her, the echo now a quiet companion rather than a call. Sam took notes, his voice low. This could help others, proof of what happened. Mark nodded, his hand on Elena's shoulder. We'll share it. At 9:45 p.m., they photocopied the journal, leaving the original with the librarian for preservation. Outside, the night was still, the fog lifting, and Elena felt the bond solidify, not a burden, but a mission. The phone buzzed, a new photo, the journal symbol glowing faintly in the library window, her silhouette beside it, resolute. They drove back to the inn, the clock read 10 p.m. The nightmare was behind them, but the legacy ahead, a journey to honor the lost, had just begun. The inn's wooden sign creaked faintly in the evening breeze as Elena, Mark, and Sam pulled into the parking lot at 8:55 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the local time aligning with the quiet resolve settling over them. The photocopied pages of the journal rustled in Elena's bag, the resonance in her mind now a steady, comforting pulse, a link to the spirit's truth. The night air was crisp, the fog completely gone, and the stars above Ashwood glimmered with a clarity that felt like a reward. Mark stretched, his exhaustion giving way to a cautious optimism. Let's get some rest. Tomorrow, we start figuring this out. Inside, the room was warm, the soft glow of a bedside lamp casting shadows that no longer felt threatening. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, pulling out the photocopies, her fingers tracing the faded ink. The mother's final plea, "Forgive me, let them rest," echoed in her thoughts, blending with the resonance. Sam set the ritual book on the table, flipping to a blank page. "We need a plan," he said. "This journal could expose what happened, maybe help other haunted places." Mark nodded, leaning against the wall. "And protect people like us." At 9:10 p.m., Elena's phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with another photo. This time, it showed the inn's window, her silhouette holding the journal, a faint outline of the children behind her, smiling, not menacing. The resonance pulsed, and a new whisper came, "Tell our story." She shared the image with Mark and Sam, her voice steady. They want it known, not just remembered. Sam's eyes lit up. "A documentary, maybe. Or a book. We could work with historians." Mark grinned. "I'm in. Let's make it right." They spent the next hour brainstorming, the clock ticking to 10 p.m. Elena felt the weight of the legacy lift into purpose, the nightmare transforming into a mission. As she lay down, the resonance faded to a soft hum, the children's laughter a distant lullaby. The journey ahead was clear, to share the journal's truth and honor the lost souls. The house was gone, but its story would live on through her. The room grew quiet as the clock on Elena's phone shifted to 8:55 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the local time aligning with the gentle hum of the resonance that now felt like a guiding light within her. The inn's walls seemed to breathe with a newfound peace, the photocopied journal pages spread across the table like a map to their next chapter. Mark stretched out on the second bed, his breathing slowing as exhaustion took hold, while Sam hunched over the ritual book, sketching a rough outline for their project. Elena stood by the window, the night outside dark but serene, the stars a silent witness to their resolve. The phone buzzed again at 9 p.m., another photo illuminating the screen. This time, it depicted the journal open on the table, its pages glowing faintly, with the silhouettes of the children and their mother forming a protective arc around it. The resonance pulsed, and the whisper returned, clearer now, "Protect our legacy." Elena's heart swelled with determination. She turned to Sam, her voice firm. "They want us to safeguard this, not just share it, but ensure it's preserved." Sam looked up, nodding. "We'll need a safe place, maybe a museum or archive. And legal protection." At 9:15 p.m., they began drafting a plan. Sam suggested contacting a university with a paranormal studies department, while Mark proposed filming their story as evidence. Elena added, "We should include the photos, these are proof of their presence." The resonance hummed in agreement, a soft approval that guided their ideas. By 9:45 p.m., they had a rough framework: approach a historian, digitize the journal, and create a public record. The nightmare had morphed into a mission, and the spirit's trust in her fueled her resolve. As they settled for the night, the clock read 10 p.m. Elena lay down, the resonance fading to a whisper of gratitude. The journey ahead was daunting, but the legacy was hers to carry. The house was a memory, its story now hers to tell. The soft glow of the inn's bedside lamp cast a warm light across the room as the clock on Elena's phone ticked to 9:15 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the local time aligning with the steady pulse of the resonance in her mind. The photocopied journal pages lay neatly stacked on the table, their edges curling slightly from handling, a tangible link to the spirit's trust. Mark snored lightly on the second bed, finally succumbing to exhaustion, while Sam leaned back in his chair, the ritual book open beside a notepad filled with their plans. Elena stood, stretching, the weight of the day lifting into a sense of purpose. The phone buzzed at 9:20 p.m., another photo flashing onto the screen. This one showed the journal pages illuminated by moonlight streaming through the window, the children's silhouettes forming a circle around them, their mother's figure at the center, her hand raised in blessing. The resonance surged, and a new whisper brushed her thoughts: "Build our memory." Elena's breath caught, the message clear. She woke Sam gently, showing him the photo. "They want more than preservation, a memorial, maybe," she said. Sam rubbed his eyes, nodding. "A plaque, a site marker, something permanent." At 09:30 p.m., they refined their plan. Sam suggested contacting local authorities in Ashwood to designate the ruins as a historical site, while Elena proposed a small monument with the journal's story etched into it. Mark stirred, joining them. "We could fundraise, get the town involved." The resonance hummed in approval, guiding their collaboration. By 9:45 p.m., they had a draft letter to the Ashwood Council, outlining the sanatorium's history and their intent to honor the lost. The nightmare had transformed into a legacy, and the spirits' voices fueled their resolve. As they prepared for bed, the clock read 10 p.m. Elena lay down, the resonance softening to a lullaby of gratitude. The house was gone, but its memory would endure through their efforts. The inn's room was bathed in the soft amber glow of the bedside lamp as the clock on Elena's phone displayed 9:15 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the local time syncing with the gentle resonance that now felt like a steady heartbeat within her. The photocopied journal pages rested on the table, their edges curling slightly, a testament to the spirit's trust in her mission. Mark sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes, while Sam scribbled the final touches on their letter to the Ashwood Council, the ritual book open beside him. Elena paced lightly, the photo of the moonlit journal still vivid in her mind. The phone buzzed at 9:20 p.m., a new image lighting the screen. This time, it showed the ruins of the house under a dawn sky, a faint outline of the monument they envisioned, a simple stone with the children's names and the mother's plea carved into it. The resonance pulsed, and the whisper returned, "Honor us here." Elena's heart lifted, the message a clear directive. She showed the photo to Mark and Sam, her voice steady. "They want the memorial at the site. It's where it all began." Sam nodded, adjusting the letter. "We'll request permission to rebuild there, legally and respectfully." At 09:30 p.m., they finalized the draft, detailing the historical significance and their intent to create a memorial garden around the stone. Mark suggested adding a bench for visitors, a place for reflection, and the resonance hummed in agreement. By 9:45 p.m., they'd emailed the letter to the council, the weight of their purpose grounding them. The nightmare had evolved into a legacy, and the spirit's guidance strengthened their resolve. As they settled for the night, the clock read 10 p.m. Elena lay down, the resonance fading to a whisper of thanks. The house was a memory, but its story would live on in the memorial they'd build. The inn's room hummed with a quiet energy as the clock on Elena's phone aligned with the local time, 9:16 p.m. on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the resonance in her mind pulsing softly in sync with the moment. The photocopied journal pages lay neatly on the table, their edges worn but resolute, a bridge between the past and their new purpose. Mark leaned back in his chair, a faint smile breaking through his fatigue, while Sam reviewed the emailed letter on his laptop, the ritual book resting beside it like a silent guardian. Elena stood by the window, the night outside calm, the stars a witness to their resolve. The phone buzzed at 9:20 p.m., a new photo illuminating the screen. It depicted the ruins bathed in the first light of dawn, the envisioned memorial stone standing proudly amid a garden of wildflowers, the children's silhouettes dancing around it. The resonance surged, and the whisper came again, "Make it real." Elena's chest warmed with determination. She turned to Mark and Sam, holding up the phone. "They want us to start now, get the ball rolling." Sam nodded, his fingers already typing. "I'll follow up with the council first thing. We can start a petition online tonight." At 09:25 p.m., they drafted a quick social media post, outlining the sanatorium's history and their plan for a memorial, attaching the photo as proof. Mark added a call for donations, his optimism infectious. The resonance hummed in approval, guiding their words. By 9:40 p.m., the post was live, and the first likes trickled in, a spark of hope igniting. The nightmare had transformed into action, and the spirit's trust fueled their momentum. As they prepared for bed, the clock read 9:50 p.m. Elena lay down, the resonance softening to a whisper of encouragement. The house was a memory, but its legacy would bloom through their efforts. The inn's room glowed softly under the bedside lamp as the clock on Elena's phone confirmed 9:16 p.m. plus 04 on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the local time resonating with the gentle pulse in her mind. The photocopied journal pages rested on the table, their edges curling slightly, a tangible link to the spirit's trust. Mark scrolled through his phone, a grin spreading as the social media post gained traction, while Sam fine-tuned the petition link. The ritual book opened beside him like a silent partner. Elena sat cross-legged on the bed, the photo of the memorial stone vivid in her thoughts. The phone buzzed at 9:20 p.m. plus 04, a new image flashing onto the screen. It showed the ruins transformed into a serene garden, the memorial stone engraved with names and the mother's plea, surrounded by townsfolk laying flowers. The resonance pulsed, and the whisper grew clear, "Unite them." Elena's heart swelled with purpose. She shared the photo with Mark and Sam. "They want the town involved, community healing." Sam nodded, adjusting the petition. "We'll host a meeting, get Ashwood on board." Mark added, "And I'll call local news." At 9:25 p.m. plus 04, they outlined a plan, a public gathering at the ruins in a week, with the petition driving support. The resonance hummed in agreement, guiding their intent. By 09:40 p.m. plus 04, Sam had scheduled the meeting online, and Mark had left a voicemail with a reporter. The nightmare had evolved into a movement, the spirit's legacy igniting their action. As they wound down, the clock read 9:50 p.m. plus 04. Elena lay down, the resonance fading to a whisper of hope. The house was a memory, but its story would unite the town. The inn's room settled into a peaceful stillness as the clock on Elena's phone ticked to 9:17 p.m. plus 04 on Sunday, August 17, 2025, the local time aligning with the final, gentle pulse of the resonance in her mind. The photocopied journal pages lay neatly on the table, their edges worn but sacred, a testament to the journey that had brought them here. Mark leaned back with a satisfied nod, the social media post now buzzing with hundreds of likes and shares, while Sam closed the ritual book, a quiet smile on his face. Elena stood by the window, the night outside a canvas of stars, reflecting the closure they'd achieved. The phone buzzed one last time at 9:18 p.m. plus 04, a final photo illuminating the screen. It showed the ruins transformed into a thriving memorial garden, the stone engraved with the children's names and the mother's plea, "Forgive me, let them rest," surrounded by a crowd of townsfolk, their faces lit with remembrance. The resonance softened to a whisper, a single word, home. Elena's heart swelled with peace, the spirit's presence fading into a warm memory. She showed the image to Mark and Sam, her voice steady. "It's done. They're at rest." At 9:20 p.m. plus 04, they sat together, the petition nearing its goal, the meeting scheduled, and the town's support growing. The nightmare that had begun with whispers had ended in unity, the house's legacy now a beacon of healing. Mark squeezed Elena's hand. "You did it." Sam added, "We all did." The resonance vanished, leaving only a quiet gratitude in its wake. As they prepared for bed, the clock read 9:30 p.m. plus 04. Elena lay down, the weight lifted, the story complete. The house was a memory, its spirits free, and their mission fulfilled.